Yo, what's up, Manhwa lovers? It's your boy Manhwa Population back at it again with another breakdown that's about to hit you harder than a final boss's ultimate attack. Today, we're diving into the high-stakes chaos of August 17th, 2035, a world where humanity is hanging by a thread, prey to gigantic, mysterious monsters pouring out of gates from another dimension. Buckle up, because this one's packed with action, suspense, and a mysterious armored knight who's giving off major main character energy. It's a quiet evening. The radio crackles to life, a voice asking the haunting question, are we all safe? The date? August 17th, 2035. 5 years have passed since calamity struck humanity like a nuclear bomb. August 17th, 2030. That's the day the gates opened, unleashing hordes of gigantic, unidentified monsters on Earth. Humanity? Reduced to nothing but prey on the food chain. Let that sink in. Cut to our guy chilling on a rooftop. He's listening to this grim broadcast when the announcer starts ranting. What about the hard-working awakened individuals out there? The voice barks. Turns out they're the reason 40% of humanity is still breathing. Yeah, respect where it's due. But hold up. The ground starts shaking like it's the prelude to a disaster movie. Our rooftop man's instincts kick in. He scopes the street below and bam! Monsters are back at it again, hunting humans like it's open season. The radio keeps spilling doom. The walls can't hold forever. Overcrowded safe zones, supply shortages, humanity's barely holding on. Our guy? He's unbothered. Plugs out the defer pads, probably muttering, here we go again. He's got his eyes on the scene below. 6 CC-class monsters above average and 1 big-shot Ebola-class monster. A class? Yeah, this just got serious. Suddenly, he notices something. An electric, yellow-orange light sparks to life in the parking lot. It's forming a circle, a sudden gate. And you know what that means. Someone's coming through. Enter the knight. This guy's dripping in full armor, straight out of an epic fantasy. He steps out of the gate and lets out a scream of excitement. He's back, baby. But wait, before he can even catch his breath, the monsters lock onto him. They're rushing in, and our knight's like, what the hell are these mutts doing here? Classic fish out of water vibes. From the rooftop, our guy watches, hyped as the battle begins. The knight's holding his ground, but it's brutal. By the end of it, he's missing an arm. Yeah. This ain't your average isekai power trip. But then, the knight yells, summoning his trump card, Cradle of Swords. Boom! A sword materializes above him, glowing with raw power. The rooftop guy gives us the lowdown. C-class monsters? Normally it takes 10 high-ranking hunters to handle them, and this guy's taking on 6 and an A-class? The knight points his summoned sword at the nearest monster. The tension's so thick, you could cut it with. Well, a sword. The monster charges, and our knight's ready for the ultimate clash. The knight launched a powerful attack toward the monster, landing a decisive blow that caused it to lose its balance. The creature collapsed to the ground, blood pooling around it. However, the knight was far from finished, and a class monster loomed ahead, a far greater threat than the ones he had just defeated. The A-class monster glared at the knight, its fury palpable as it stood over the bodies of its slain allies. On a nearby rooftop, a man watched in anticipation, his excitement growing as he realized the knight's true power, a copymaster. As the monster began gathering a massive, destructive energy in its mouth, the knight readied himself, recognizing the danger. With a deafening roar, the monster unleashed its attack. The knight activated his phantom dash, narrowly dodging the onslaught. Repositioning himself with precision, he summoned his demon blade and delivered a lethal slash to the monster's body. The mighty beast let out a final, guttural cry before collapsing to the ground, defeated. From his vantage point, the man on the rooftop was awestruck, marveling at the knight's skill and bravery. But victory had come at a steep price. The knight fell to the ground, exhausted and gravely injured, his body bearing the scars of the intense battle. Among his wounds was the loss of an arm, a devastating injury that highlighted the cost of his triumph. Seeing this, the man rushed to the knight's side, desperate to help. Are you okay? He asked, shaking the knight gently. There was no response. As he struggled to revive the fallen warrior, a memory surfaced, his brother's words echoing in his mind. Save this person and gain power. Suddenly, the knight coughed up blood, jolting the man from his thoughts. Panic set in as he wondered how he could possibly save this knight. Just as despair began to take hold, the knight's eyes fluttered open. With a weak voice, he asked, "What year is it now?" "It's August 2035, the man replied. The knight's expression darkened. Struggling to stand, he brushed off the man's attempts to hold him down. 30 years, he muttered bitterly. I spent 30 years in that place, yet only 5 have passed here. The man, alarmed by the knight's condition, pleaded, "You're too injured. Please, rest." But the knight shook his head, urgency driving him forward. "It's too late already," he said, his voice heavy with regret. Realizing the knight's dire state, the man whispered to himself, "He's not going to make it." The knight, sensing his end, lamented the power he had wasted opening the gate. Pulling a worn family photo from his pocket, he extended it to the man. "Find them," the knight pleaded. "If I die, take care of them." His trembling hands emphasized the weight of his request. The man hesitated, overwhelmed by the enormity of the task. "I don't think I'm the right person for this," he admitted. The knight's frustration flared. "I'm not asking for free," he snapped. "I'll give you my power in return." Confused, the man asked, "What kind of power?" The knight's gaze hardened as he locked eyes with the man. "Before I give you my power, I need to know your name." Upon hearing it, the man felt speechless, and the knight introduced his name, that he was Park Kang-ho, and asked the name of the man again. In this world struck by apocalypse-like disaster, his life had always revolved around 2 common themes: survival and loss. Kang recalled what happened the last time he was in the facility, his exhaustion weighing heavily on him. The man greeted him, expressing relief that they had finally met, introducing himself as Choi Jun-hyuk. It turned out they were in Jun-hyuk's hideout, surrounded by a group of men. One of them mocked Kang, comparing him to a slippery eel. Kang hesitated, clutching a deep, serious wound on his left side. Kang asked how Jun-hyuk had found him, suspecting betrayal. Jun-hyuk smirked, revealing that he had made a deal with Cha Jin-soo, a rank 16 villain, in exchange for $1 million and a promise not to pursue him for a year. The revelation infuriated Kang, who considered Cha Jin-soo a despicable traitor. Memories of his past flooded Kang's mind. The death of his parents, false accusations, imprisonment, a car accident, and the tragic loss of his younger siblings, all weighing on him. Jun-hyuk, having gotten the answers he wanted, unsheathed his sword and declared it was time to end things. Kang, accepting his fate, told Jun-hyuk they should begin. But before the group could attack, Kang raised his hand, revealing an unfamiliar stone. He asked if Jun-hyuk recognized it. The sight of the artifact rendered Jun-hyuk speechless. Kang explained that it was the fabled stone of regression. Realizing the artifact's significance, Jun-hyuk ordered his men to kill Kang immediately. But Kang was faster. He activated the stone, and light began to emanate from it. Laughing, Kang taunted Jun-hyuk, calling him Jonathan Curtis, and promised they would meet again in the past. The light engulfed Kang as he vanished, leaving the group stunned. In the present, Choi Jun-hyuk stared at Kang, dumbfounded by his story. As the world reverted to the state it was 23 years ago, gates and monster attacks continued to loom, but humanity pressed on. Jun-hyuk extended his hand, proposing a deal. Kang smiled and agreed to Jun-hyuk's plan. Without hesitation, Kang initiated the system transfer, targeting Jun-hyuk. The ground trembled as a system notification appeared, warning that executing the transfer would cause the caster's body to vanish. Kang, knowing he was already a dead man, smiled and confirmed his decision. The system announced, "User Park Kang-ho has initiated the system transfer. Target Choi Jun-hyuk is now registered as a new user." It added, "Initiating transfer of the second original." Kang's body began to dissolve, leaving behind a legacy of power and a new beginning for Choi Jun-hyuk. Meanwhile, in the city, the system scans the body of Jun from 10% to 20%. Jun still guards his position since he doesn't trust Kang. The transfer is in progress, but Kang advises him, if you're not careful, it could get cancelled. Suddenly, the monster from earlier slowly stands up, and Jun quickly asks Kang, "What did you say?" Jun freezes, his body tensing as he knows something is happening behind him. He's startled when he sees the monster has already woken up. Kang sighs, "Your life is messed up, Jun." The monster growls, furious at Kang. Kang calls Jun's attention. In fantasy novels, people return home and live happily ever after. But Jun can't stay still and keeps looking around. Kang advises, "After I've given you my power, you should run away before it's too late." Kang seems annoyed. "What else are you gonna do?" Jun's eyes lock onto a piece of metal on the ground. Kang tells him, "If your life is a mess, you should run. You live with the myths. Just adapt and survive." Jun picks up the metal and prepares himself for whatever comes next. Seeing this, Kang is confused and asks, "What are you doing?" Jun responds, "I'm sick of running away. I'm standing right here in front of the monster." He prepares his weapon, his eyes set on the monster with unwavering confidence. To Jun's surprise, the monster just walks away from them. Jun is confused, muttering, "What's going on?" He throws the weapon down, laughing nervously. "I thought I'd die from the tension." Kang is relieved. "You got lucky, Jae-jun." But Jun disagrees, saying, "If the monster hadn't been critically injured, it might have attacked us again." Suddenly, Jun grows nervous as he sees Kang's body slowly fading. Kang reminds him, "You need to find your family and take care of them." He points a finger at Jun, adding, "If you break your promise, I will never forgive you." Jun is left speechless as he processes Kang's words. Meanwhile, in the system, it announces, 100% complete. The user's body is unsuitable to receive the system. Still, the scan of Jun's body continues. Jun, busy thinking about his plan, is startled when his body starts moving uncontrollably. He's confused as the system announces, "The awakening process has begun." In his mind, Jun tries to act tough, but the pain is far worse than expected. The system processes continue, and Jun feels like his bones are breaking and his flesh tearing apart. He spits out saliva, his eyes turning all white. The next day, a man named Carr is seen driving down the road, whistling happily. He spots Jun from afar and wonders, "What's he doing here?" Jun, busy tightening a box on a car, is surprised when he notices the car. "Cheol, already here?" Cheol is puzzled. "It's my day off today." "Why'd you ask to swap shifts yesterday?" Jun, looking nervous, explains, "When I was heading back, monsters suddenly appeared, and I got stuck. Missed my chance to leave and had to stay overnight." Cheol, fuming, says, "You stayed overnight in this place? You must have a death wish." Jun just smiles, telling him, "Don't worry, I'm safe." Cheol, still irritated, asks, "Thanks to Pang Pang, what are you talking about?" Jun then asks, "Why are you here so early? Isn't it too early to start working? Where are the other team members?" Cheol, sweating nervously, explains, "I've been waking up early these days. That's why I came out early. The others will be here soon." Jun fakes a laugh, masking his suspicions as he responds casually, "Yeah, I understand." But in his mind, he curses Cheol. He's hiding something useful again. I can feel it. Cheon, still cheerful, is about to speak, a wide grin on his face. He's in high spirits, but Jun can sense something beneath that smile, a leader's charisma masking something more. Cheon is the leader of the hyena team, and Jun knows all too well the real reason he's so cocky. Today, Cheon is the original owner of the copy master ability that he stole. That's the ability to copy and use the skills of other awakened individuals. Cheol, unfortunately, couldn't fully harness the power of the copy master ability. That's why he'd become an outcast among the awakened. It's why he ended up as a corpse in some abandoned building. His downfall wasn't a mystery. It was simple. He was too weak to use the stolen power properly, and now that same power sat in Cheon's hands, a reminder of how quickly things can change. Jun smiles tightly as he bids Cheol goodbye, pretending to be cordial. "You did a good job, Cheol. Great job," he says, though his mind is already calculating. As soon as he turns away, he can't help but feel a little bit of satisfaction. He knows Cheol's fate. As he drives away, Jun's mind drifts back to the crystals Cheol had been transporting. The B-class crystals and the 4 C-class ones on the front seat catch his eye. Jun feels a pang of guilt for sneaking them from Cheol, but it's quickly drowned out by the fact that these crystals had saved his life. He couldn't ignore that. Jun picks up one of the crystals, feeling its cold weight in his hand. The problem now is how to deal with these, he thinks. He could sell them. He could retire early, live comfortably. But he hesitates. Selling them would be too risky. These were rare crystals. Cheol had gotten them after awakening with Kang's power. He knew the stakes were too high. If someone found out he had these, the consequences could be deadly. Jun clenches the crystal tightly, a small smile forming on his lips, despite his internal conflict. He knew Cheol had failed to secure the spoils properly. But Jun? He would always plan ahead. That's why he had taken the crystals before anything went wrong. He'd learned from Cheol's mistakes. The next day, Jun returned to the place where Cheol had left the dead monsters, their bodies strewn across the floor. He moved cautiously, checking around, and picked up the crystals. They were still there waiting. If it's a monster's core, I can sell it discreetly, he thought. But he also knew that if it were a high-tier monster's core, the Awakened Association and the government would surely investigate, and he'd be caught up in a mess. At worst, Jun would get nothing for it. Someone might target him, and he could end up just like Cheol, left for dead in some abandoned building. Jun pulls his phone from his pocket, his thoughts swirling with plans, trying to figure out a way to solve his problems. I need to register as an awakened quickly, he thinks, as his finger hovers over the call button. When the phone connects, the voice on the other end is surprised. Jun, what are you calling me for? The voice is familiar, friendly, Min, his old acquaintance. Jun smiles to himself. Hey Min, you got some cash for once? I was thinking we could grab a drink, just the two of us. Min chuckles on the other end. I'll be the one paying, huh? Jun smirks. Sure, but I'm treating you to the grand pork belly feast, don't forget that. Min groans, clearly annoyed. Free drinks aren't free, you know. Jun laughs, but his mind is already shifting focus. He's made his decision. A short time later, Jun arrives at the Seoul safe zone and meets up with Min. He leads him to a building where the crystal can be sold. Inside, they're greeted by a man who Jun knows well, a dealer who specializes in rare items. Jun lays the crystals out on the table, his eyes hard as he asks, "How much for all of them?" The man looks over the crystals, his eyes gleaming with interest. "These items are pretty useful right now," he says, nodding. "I'll give you 600 for the lot." Jun tries to hide his disappointment but presses on. 600 for all of these? It's tough to find decent items these days. The man shrugs. It's a buyer's market. Back in the day, these could fetch up to 800. But now, people just aren't looking for the high-priced stuff. Jun's eyes narrow. I don't care. 600 is fine, but he knows he could have gotten more. Still, the important thing is that he's off the hook for now. His mind races. I'll figure out another way to get the real value later. Jun stood there, staring at the man in disbelief. The weight of the conversation hung heavy. The man had just told him that the population was shrinking, prices were skyrocketing, and people just weren't spending money anymore. Jun's mind raced. But before he could respond, a sudden noise broke his concentration. 2 children came running toward him, their cries filling the air as they stumbled into his arms. Jun blinked, shocked. Choi Yoon-young, Choi Yoon-chul. He called their names, trying to make sense of their sudden appearance. What are you doing here? You should be at school right now. But the children clung to him, their small hands gripping his clothes tightly. Their tears streamed down their faces as they sobbed. You left us. We thought you abandoned us. Jun was taken aback for a moment but then shook his head. Stop crying, he said, his voice gentle but firm. You've got nothing to cry about. I'm here now. You should head home. Choi Yoon-chul, wiping his eyes, sniffed and said, I'm not crying. Jun couldn't help but smirk at the stubbornness in his voice. He ruffled the boy's hair affectionately. All right. No more crying. How about this? When you get home, I'll grill some meat for lunch. At the mention of meat, the children's faces lit up, their tears forgotten in an instant. The promise of food cheered them up, and they both nodded eagerly. Jun smiled as he tapped their heads, his way of easing the tension that had built up. As the children started to head home, Yoon-young hesitated for a moment, then said to his brother, The landlord upstairs said we should stop by when you get back. Jun froze. Landlord? Yoon-young nodded. Yeah, the rent's overdue. She's been asking about it. Jun's heart sank. The rent had slipped his mind in the chaos. Overdue, he muttered under his breath, feeling the pressure building up in his chest. At home, Jun quickly began grilling the meat, but the tension didn't ease. His family sat at the table, eagerly eating, but their eyes often drifted to him. There was a heavy silence, one that was only broken when the landlord finally spoke up, her gaze sharp as she observed the feast laid before her. "Jun," she said, her voice laced with concern, "why all this food all of a sudden?" Jun smiled, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Don't worry. I was stopped by the butcher and thought of you all. Figured we could all use a little something nice." The landlord's expression softened, but only slightly. "You should be saving, not spending so much. You've got to think about your siblings. This isn't the time for indulgence." Her words were followed by a long silence before she placed a folded note on the table. "The overdue rent." Jun's heart skipped a beat. She continued, "I know things are tough for you right now. That's why from now on I'll only charge you half the rent." Jun blinked in surprise, his voice faltering. "You don't have to do that." But before he could protest further, another voice cut in, the man who'd been hanging around, trying to get his point across. "Hey, during tough times we help each other. Just take it. Don't feel burdened." The landlord scowled, her patience wearing thin. She reached out and smacked the back of the man's head. "You brat," she snapped. "You act like you own the place." The man, clearly annoyed, shot back, "Once you're gone, this house will be mine anyway. What's the point of pretending?" Jun's stomach churned as the tension escalated. He could feel the heat of the argument radiating from them, and his mind raced with all the possibilities of what could go wrong. The landlord's face flushed with anger. "How dare you say that?" she hissed, her hands shaking. "You think this is easy for me? I can't even sleep at night with all the stress. And you—" Before she could continue, she turned toward the children who were busy eating, unaware of the adults' escalating conflict. "You're lazy," she yelled. "All you do is run around doing nonsense." The children looked up in surprise, but one of them, Jun's younger relative, spoke up. "Why are you calling it nonsense? It's like studying." Jun couldn't help but laugh softly at the innocence in the child's voice. He knew that wasn't going to help, though. The tension was still thick, but his mind wandered as he listened to the back and forth. Chang-Su, trying to defend himself, stood up and said, "I'm preparing in case I awaken. I'm learning how to fight, so I'm ready." The landlord scoffed, dismissing the idea. "What's the point of that? You should be focusing on your studies." Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this short video. The reason it's brief is that I wanted to give everyone a quick intro to this manhwa before diving into a full recap. If I see a good response, I'll definitely make a detailed full-length video. So, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you liked the video and want to see the next part, let me know in the comments. Your feedback means a lot.